Therapy's just getting cool and it's failing. Let's fix it, shall we? Mended Light. Gen Z is so different than the generation I grew up with, my parents, my grandparents, because for the first time, like my wife has a metal bottle, a water bottle that says going to therapy is cool, and people don't laugh at it. They see it and they go, "Yes, where can I get one of those? I want one of those." And that's because it's hip now, or at least we're dropping the stereotypes and the stigmas of the past and leaning into mental health and taking care of yourself is a vital part of modern living. Emotional wellness, of course, why wouldn't you do it? We're stripping away the shame. Being fluent in therapy speak is now cool, right? And if you are unwilling to get help to work on yourself, people who want to date you could see that as a potential red flag. And as someone who was raised in a different generation and practices therapy for a living, I could not be happier about these cultural shifts that I'm witnessing. There's just one problem. It's that everyone's turning to therapy excitedly, and sometimes therapy sucks. So many people say that they went to therapy and it didn't help, or that it helped for a little while and then things just went right back to where they were, or they went to therapy and it made things worse, or they didn't connect to their therapist, or their therapist gave them terrible advice, or one horror story after another. It seems like keeping pace with all the positive talk about therapy are the warnings about therapy. So why is that? Well, I think it's because we're relying on the old ways of doing therapy, which don't necessarily meet the needs of the newest generation, or frankly, didn't necessarily meet the needs of generations past. I want to talk about eight ways that therapy is failing us and how we can harness its power by evolving with the times. So here we go. Number one, you're unable to access what you need where you live. You have a special need and the therapists around you just aren't cutting it, or you're in a rural area and you can't access somebody directly who specializes in what you need. Number two, lack of structure. A lot of traditional therapy, yes, there are goals, but it's kind of like we go and you go to therapy indefinitely. There's a case plan, sure, whatever, but how many people do you know who are in therapy for months and months and years and years? Now, in some cases, that's absolutely necessary. Chronic mental illness or extreme trauma where there's a lot of work to be done. But so often, number three, there's no finish line. And that lack of structure and lack of finish line means that we start therapy excited and then we kind of peter out, right? And therapy just kind of diminishing returns kicks in. You're not getting as much out of it as you used to, and you just kind of stop going. And that's sad for everybody involved. Wah, wah. Number four is lack of support between sessions. You go to therapy, you feel this tremendous uplift, or you feel challenged, or your butt gets kicked and you're really mad, but then you think about it and then it's actually helpful. But then you have to face life, right? You've got this 1 hour for you, and then you've got a whole week or 2 weeks in between. So sometimes in session, you'll take a step or a few steps forward, and then during the week, you take a lot of steps back because we fall back into our old patterns and you feel unsupported and left alone. Number five is overdependence on the counselor. Yes, you're supposed to be learning skills and tools that will serve you and help you. I mean, there is a stereotype of therapists who keep you sick, right? Or keep you mentally ill so they can keep charging you. And yes, there are unethical people who do that. But more often than not, it's just a therapist who's trying to do some good. So they just keep you coming, right? Indefinitely. And you develop this need to, I'm going to use my therapist for everything I have going on in my life and all my problems, instead of developing the skills and the tools and the strength to handle it yourself. Number six, it takes a long time, right? This feeds into what I was saying earlier about a lack of direction or a lack of structure. It just kind of peters out or goes on too long. It's kind of like your favorite TV show where it goes on a few seasons too long and you wish they'd stopped earlier. Similar thing, but with therapy. Yeah, maybe not my best analogy, but we're running with it. 7, changes don't take hold. In other words, you get the skills, you get the tools, you meet with your therapist, it's all going well, and then you stop going to therapy, and then when you're out flying on your own, it all just comes tumbling down, and it's like you never even went. Or even worse, you went and you learned all this stuff, but now you're not applying it, so you feel terrible about yourself. And number 8 is a wishy-washy therapy plan. In other words, there is structure, and there is a timeline, and there is a finish line, but it's all kind of meh. It doesn't really pop. It doesn't keep you moving. It doesn't excite you. You don't feel like you're making the strides that you want to make. And it feels all kind of weak sauce. That's my best way to describe that. So how are we addressing this in Mended Light, and what do we have for you? Number one, we work with you virtually, online, through webcam, wherever you are, to meet your needs. And we will pair you with a specialist on our team who is best suited to your specific situation. Number two, we have 3 to 6 month plans with specific goals and success markers for you to go through the paces and to know, okay, here's where I'm starting, here's where I'm ending, and we're moving forward. Which leads to number three, there is a specific finish line, which isn't to say that if you want to meet with a member of our team after your plan is finished that we're going to tell you no. Of course, we're here for you if you need us, but you're actually building towards something, and you're trying to build to a place of stability. Now, we're not going to cut you loose before you're ready. It's something that you work out with your therapist, but again, we try to keep it within that 3 to 6 months to really give you what you need in a concentrated dose. Number four, remember I was talking about feeling unsupported between your therapy sessions? Well, we've got online video courses that you take in between your counseling sessions. So instead of picking up where you left off at your last session, when you go to therapy, you're picking up here, because in between you've been watching video lessons from our courses on mental health, relationships, trauma recovery, and you've got application exercises for you to be doing, so that not only are you learning, you're applying, and your counselor knows exactly where they're going to meet you on the road to keep going on that journey and to help you troubleshoot if there's any hangups with what you're learning. Number five, I talked about overdependence on the counselor. Well, with our system, the coursework requires more of you than just arriving to therapy and saying, what do you got for me today, therapist? You are learning, you are applying, you are self-guiding, and so things take hold and actually last. The changes actually last. Which brings me to that the coursework and the counseling together means that you progress faster than in regular traditional therapy. You move through your growth faster. But also, number seven, when we talked about the changes don't last, the changes are more likely to last because it's not just the therapy, it's the work you're doing, and you're developing habits as you go. You're learning self-reliance and resilience from the start, and your counselor is like the training wheels. You're doing the pedaling, you're doing the steering, but they're there to make sure you don't fall over until you're ready to move on without them. So the changes take hold because of the work that you are doing. There is no wishy-washy plan. You know exactly what you're doing, when you're starting, what your target date is to end, and there's no pressure. Some people end earlier, some people end later. It's all just about the pace that you need to set, but your counselor is there for you, the coursework is there for you, and it is, if I may say so, a damn good system. You may feel like this could be a fit for you, but you want to test it out, get a little more taste of it. Well, we've got a complimentary 15-minute consultation with a member of our clinical team just waiting for you. You can meet with a member of our team, you can get more information, you can get a feel for it, and see if this is right. Click the link below to get that scheduled. Once again, therapy is cool. Going to therapy is cool. Getting support and help is amazing. We need to harness the true power and potential of it, and here at Mended Light, we are doing just that. Don't take my word for it. Give it a shot. Link is below.